To the many people who are starting to wonder why is it that Brenda's coming on in the middle of the day versus at the scheduled times. Now, in essence, what I'm finding is that there are many people who portray themselves as loyal listeners and who are watching for the most part after those scheduled times. And I want to say thank you for those of you that are scheduling your times to be of a regular nature. But in essence, it's okay. I'm still going to be doing the Wednesday evening soul embodiment um, sessions. And actually, I'm going to call it the Guidance for the Soul sessions. And then the Sunday evening channel for the soul sessions. The soul embodiment sessions are going to be more in alignment with some other format because most people, in essence, are still thinking that it is about them trying to take on my ideas, and it's not. And it needs to be in a format where you can start to go in and understand your own work, right? I'm here to guide you to a session for those souls who really are serious about doing it and can get those very specific guidance messages for them. And those will be targeted at very specific people who are willing to have their information brought up in a public format. If you want something that is more tailored and can really hit on some of those issues that might be kind of preventing you from doing the work, we would say, schedule a session, and you can do so on my website, brendagervais.com. Now, the reason that I came on in this moment was because the topic was given to me this morning. And in essence, as I was watching a video for a few seconds about someone else's information that that I actually understand, and it's this nature of consciousness and expanding our consciousness, right? But in essence, that's not the way that I work. Okay, I'm not here just to guide everyone in meditations and hope you guys get your information just brought out to you. I'm here to do the work that can actually get you in touch with your soul's vision. Hands down, one of the strongest people I know. That's what I was told, right? That was by a senior official in the White House. So I was hearing from various sources. Um, Literally, before I pushed the button, I was hearing from, Vice President Cheney, right? It's his soul, right? I was hearing from the vision of Gandhi. Again, the soul of Gandhi. Okay. Now, in essence, there was a little bit of a discussion about my own feelings about how everyone's trying to go into this vision of, oh, I'm in the spiritual mindset and it feels so good because I can just align with those who are in the mode of peace and are going to open us up to those other realms that are starting to open up in various years. People in that vision are saying 1 year. My own vision was, well, I'm already here, so I'm opened up. I'm not waiting for someone else's, year to, somehow magically project me into another vision of, transcendence or consciousness. And it's no put down to anyone's system because honestly, there was a system for me that was saying there is something that's going to happen in 2024. However, your own soul might already be halfway there, right? And you won't know that unless you actually get in touch with your own heart. So now back to the will of the people. This was supposed to be a topic for guidance, and I placed it under the field of guidance. All of my videos are under the umbrella of guidance, whether I bring through Vice President Cheney's vision as he was or as he is on a different plane of understanding. You see, that's the difference. So for me, in my moments when I am strong, I will say, let's discuss the vision. Is there indeed the will of the people? And as always, I, as Brenda, right, came through and said, well, what about the free will of the people? Which is a whole different topic. Because in essence, if we're still operating under mindsets that have limitations, do we really want to place our thoughts on systems that hold us in systems that confine us? Okay, but we're not going to go that far, okay, because that is more of a spiritual kind of vision. So the will of the people is something that's being challenged in many ways in this country. And this is obviously, one of those things that can be applied to many different, governments around the world and across the globe, is what we were going to say. And in essence, what is it that we're seeing in this country? And why is it that we feel like the will of the people is not being heard, right? Well, it depends on which perspective you're looking at it. And I know most people at this point are going to say, my gut's telling me I might not want to listen to this, right? Just the words, the will of the people. Do those words frighten you? What does it say to us? It depends on your knowledge set. Are you feeling like everyone has the right to be heard? Do you feel like it's the people that are making the choices, or do you feel like it is a, system of government that's becoming more and more reliant on the lobbyist of the world, right? Or the big business, right? We now have those ideas about businesses being just as important as people. They get a say too, right? Those non-physical entities called companies. Okay. What does that do in our hearts? Now, some people will say, well, those are the companies are what keep us employed, and we're not making demons out of anything at this point. Okay, it's just an information session. So Cheney was on the line. How many people want to hear from that vision? Does he indeed still reside on this plane, or is he starting to move into an understatement about what he sees going on in this world? How come so many of these visible leaders held back their ideas about what was going on in this world? Is there a sense of uniting under a certain flag? Or is it more like, well, my party is more in alignment with these groups of people who seem to be struggled in their mindsets? And this is where we're going to talk about it's not about the party system. It's literally about the people are starting to rise up into the nature of my voice is heard. This is where our votes do indeed count, right? This is the obvious stuff. So, why would I hear the idea of the will of the people? Well, we could take it to another level. Career minded souls would say, this is not exactly what I want to talk about. How many people say this is exactly the kind of stuff you need to hear? If you want to get out of the mindset of I'm just a token, right? I'm just a token in the game of life. Or do I participate in it actively and involve myself in a system that is running my life? So this is not about saying everyone matters, right? Every single person in this world matters, and we will call you loved for that vision. However, what happens when groups of people get dissuaded from voting or from expressing? So, even for me, I would never want to hold back on expressing the views of love from a certain party member or a certain level of enlightenment, right? The vision of love says that kind words are better than those hateful ones, right? That's the vision of MLK, right? We hold hatred in our heart, of course, right? Everyone has those visions of hatred. Are we creating that? So when I align with a spiritually aligned person, are they offended by my visions of political ideology? They don't need to go in that realm. It's a different way of being. It doesn't mean everyone here needs to go in the realm of political ideology. However, your visions of I am not participating might serve you, right? If it doesn't do anything except cause, fear in your minds. How many people are fearful of the system of government that we have right now versus how many people embrace it as in progress? See, that's how I look at it, right? In progress. We're supposed to keep expanding, just like we do with any other system. Think about the nature of consciousness. How many other systems of government don't allow for a lot of expansion within those visions, right? Is our ruling system so rigid that we can't, place any more visions of love upon those words? That's the nature of changing our documents, right? Or our laws. We start to abandon those ideas that no longer serve us. And which ones can we hold on to that still, for the most part, may guide us into a better understanding of, you know, a society that doesn't fall into the nature of chaos? And if we think that the vision of revolution was not a foretelling of chaos, it was actually an abandonment of that vision. You want to know what it's like to do the work of love? That's the vision that I hold for this country, honestly. So, those of you who are in that realm of she's anti political baloney, most people know I unwind our visions from it. It's where we grow. A lot of us can disconnect if we're in the political mindset, and that's a beautiful thing. I did it for a while to a certain extent. I was so happy on my journey of spiritual enlightenment. Okay. But I was never out of it. I always did my civic duty. I was always willing to, do those visions of voting. Okay. And that's what we want to talk about. Kind words for those who are trying to stop people from voting. There are two thoughts that immediately pop into the mindsets, right? We don't want people to vote, or we do. How many people say we want our youngest to make those uneducated decisions that guide us to those places of exploration and admiration? Those are the new people. Those young, vibrant, healthy, long living loved ones who will come through and say, I get my chance to vote now. And how many of us are so afraid of the system that we say, I'm not even going to bother with it? Now, I understand for me, the idea of voting is very, tricky because it's almost like you need a law degree in essence to kind of decipher a lot of those, bills. Okay, forget if we're talking about people, that's one thing. The bills and the issues, right? Those are ridiculous. I do my best to read up on them, but how many people even know the double speak that often gets put in those, bills, right? So if we're on a side that's trying to overhaul the system, wouldn't we try to make it a little bit more easy for our people to vote? This is where we're going. So, those of you who were afraid of the ballot system in which they were sent out, I would say it was actually one of the most smooth transitions of power, okay, in essence, to the people. Because when we have record turnouts and the majority of them are absolutely not fake, you're going to start seeing more and more of the reality of what this country looks like. In essence, the ability for the people to be heard and the will of the people to be finally seen in its beauty. That's what's going to start happening. You see, most people understand if I have to walk an hour to get to my polling place, that's going to be a problem for a lot of people. If I have to take the train, right? And I'm in this idea that we're supposed to stay home because of COVID, that's going to be a problem. These were all issues that we addressed in the previous election. It's going to be a piece of cake from now on. Watch it happen. It's going to flourish. We're going to fly through this vision of the will of the people. There might be people who will say the chance of fraud is there. However, the statistics are not bearing it out at this point. We can indeed keep our support for the technologies that actually enhance the views of all of us. And that's a beautiful thing. Instead of saying, I'm just going to put fear in the mindsets of everyone and hope they don't show up, right? Can you imagine when people start finding out how other people voted in those parties and how they were obviously okay with it, right? The messages of love are still there. Let's invite a way for the will of the people to be heard. That makes it easier for all of us to do the vision of voting, even. And we have to remember it's not just for president, it's for all of these issues, all the way down to a city level districts, right? Our local school district, we vote on measures all the time. So the idea of let's discourage everyone from voting when so many issues are being, decided that absolutely affect us. So while we may not agree that who's in the White House is going to have as much of an impact, my local school district or the mayors or whatnot, those are definitely going to affect, they could easily affect who's making the choices for the schools that my children are in, right? Or who's running the, local law enforcement or the, fire. We have all these different positions that are being filled, and there's only a few people who are continuing to vote if they have to go and wait in line, right? So, the beauty of this last election, and this is kind of what we're going to talk about, is that from a viewpoint of future, it's going to flourish. That ability to honor the system. Now, we have issues in certain countries. And they would say sometimes those, valid concerns, they can be valid. Okay. Do we want to only have one ruler who tells us one thing and then we all abide by it, right? This is the beauty of our system. So at this point, no one is intending for our country in the future to go down the nature of Marxism. Okay. It is more of a alignment of how do we get our due or our help. And that's where the view of our hearts is that once the will of the people starts to actually be heard, we will start to do the healing that needs to be done. Granted, my soul would say she's on top of it, right? How many people want to know? I have my own views. But if you say that you don't believe in the election process because you didn't get your vote in on time, and then your vote was discarded, there are a lot of issues that are still going to be playing out with those states. Okay, because we did have some exceptions in this country, but most are agreed upon. These are those states' rights. They have the right to do what they need to do. Don't disregard that 10th Amendment, people. Okay, that's one of them that will get the attention of people. Stop picking and choosing your constitutional amendments to hang your hat on and start looking at all of them again. Okay. And it's not about being a dictator, but it's about a lot of us don't really remember, what's kind of on the line. And for me, if I'm bringing through those visions of those souls who said I was a part of that vision of trying to make it so that others weren't able to vote, because I knew that in essence our party's in trouble, right? That's Cheney's vision from a soul level. Their party's in trouble and they know it. If you go down the path of our system is at fault for everything, and now we trust nobody, now you know you've got some serious work to be done on the inside. How many people feel like their party's in disarray? The Democrats are flying high in a lot of ways. They have their issues, but at this point, we know that there's still a lot of discord in the Republican views of what is legitimate or not, or of conspiracy. And we want to offer our condolences to anyone who identifies as that vision, because in essence, your own mindset is going to be influenced by the views that you take on. And if you were in that views of, yeah, I was filibustering, you want to know about that view? The McConnell vision of filibustering is I am going to hang my hat on these two senators that indeed feel like, yes, we're not going to end the filibuster because it is convenient for my party at this point in time. And in essence, we're not going to play our cards right, right? He's a very strategic soul. He's very honest in his mindset, right? He's gone back on his word many a time when it came to those visions of what's right and wrong for this country in his mind. It's good for the party. That's their loyalty pledge. Okay, they have this vision of you need to be loyal to Trump or you get censored, right? Censured. That's what's happening in certain states. And I'm not going to go by play, but in essence, that's the view that Cheney, his soul would say he's trying to remove himself from responsibility from any of this. Okay. In essence, that vision of these were the kinds of policies that we were in support of when our party was in power. And now that our party isn't in that seat anymore, his vision would be I honor all souls. Literally, he can't even imagine as a soul what the vision would be. In essence, and that's the majority of souls. They'll come through and say his vision is blank, 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 right? It's not who he is on this plane of understanding. It's more like a higher level understanding of the soul, because that's where I work from. So when I say the soul of somebody, it's the highest vision of who they are, from a soul level understanding versus the idea of God like creation, which in essence is part of soul. Okay. Others will have their own visions of what that means. Okay. Um, Now, I want to honor the vision of love that are coming through, saying thank you for that political ideology video again. Most people aren't going to probably watch it, but it is a very honest assessment of the flourishing of the system that we will see, the flourishing of the guidance that we will see, and the flourishing of our hearts as we start to vibrate out of that nature that a political ideology video does not mean it's disparaging of anybody, but this is where we go in some people's minds. We could hold, the candle, right? Do we want to hold a candle for all those souls who passed over the last year, basically, right? It's going to be a year and a half before we're out of the vision of COVID again. Okay, it takes longer than what we think. We don't even have the vaccine for the children yet, people. They're just now starting those trials, and this is what people are not aware of. Your children who are under the age of 18 will not be vaccinated anytime soon. So that other guidance system that I told you about that said we're going to be more in alignment with the 2 to 3 years, that's why we're on track with that. So now I want to honor your hearts and say, there's like a has been energy. Someone would say Cheney was a has been, right? Don't you think his vision is just as valid as anyone else that sat in that vice presidential seat? To be honest, his vision is of strength. He was the strong one in that relationship when it came to the policy decisions. He had very much influence in what was going on behind the scenes. Very much so. Former CIA, correct? Now, what does that say to you about Brenda? Do I bring through those, what, family trees that want to talk about their loved ones, or do I bring about the wisdom of love? Okay. From a different point of view. Okay, this is honoring of all of our souls. Okay, because I was also hearing about the wife of Liz Cheney. Okay. And in essence, I just want to honor all of your hearts and say, you guys understand, I'm not trying to make anyone out to be better than or less than. I'm trying to give you the visions of those souls who say, I can honor the vision that we messed up on 9/11. How many people want to know what that vision is like? There is a soul of a soul who will start to unwind the vision of what the political agenda was for that vision versus the reality of what we thought was going on. Okay? This is not to disparage anyone's belief systems or to disparage anyone's memory of anyone who was affected personally in those tragic events or any of the resulting events that transpired from that vision. Hallelujah, right? Let's honor all victims, right? Even of the suicide bombers? You want to know what that vision is like to hear from one of those? Most people don't. They say, let that soul go on its way. However, what do we glean from an understanding? It's not them as they were. And I don't deal with their hearts like a medium does. Okay. But what I can understand is, do you think their soul would have said, yay, let's go do this vision? Or do you think there are higher levels of vision that can help us unwind our mindsets from the idea that we were just the innocent victims, right? We were, many of us were, right? Those who perished, absolutely. What kinds of effects does an event like that have on the mindset of all of us, right? Besides our hearts, right? And the pain and the suffering that, resulted from that. Not only that, this country was spun on its heels, in essence. Okay. We have to go in, just like we do as a person, and we have to say, what are we doing? Are we bringing up those wounds for people? We have to unwind the fact that that vibration still creates there. We still react to those ideas of those countries. They're part of us. We can't disconnect from all souls. We can't. We're all in this together as a global, well, we could call it a conglomerate now, right? Do you want to go, well, universal wisdom would say, I'm going to bring through the guides that'll carry us past the climate crisis. But in essence, that's another vision for another time. At this point, let's just be grateful that our country did not completely, fall apart. It wasn't meant to, okay? And it's not going to. because in essence, the vision is still very strong of uniting in this country versus those who are in the mindset of let's all just separate and go to our separate corners. That's what some of us are doing. We're like, I don't want to be in this place or time. So those in the spiritual mindset often will say, I just want to transcend the vision of politics, beautify my heart, my mind, my soul, imbibe upon the beauty of who I am, grieve the loss of life as it is felt here, and honor those visions of those who say, I walk with her. I don't need to be part of political ideology if I don't want to. But where else am I going to grow? You see, there's so many opportunities for growth in this world, and some people feel like I'm done growing. How else can you do the beauty of love for your family tree, right? Anyone that can unwind the political ideologies and say I can still have a conversation with anyone about the political, realms, I will say I love you. How many people can't talk to anybody about politics at this point in time unless they happen to be on the same page? Okay. That's one of the things that I love to do. Okay. So, anyways, I want to say thank you so much for watching. And honestly, let's think about that vision of our country's going to start feeling more like it should be. And when I say that, as more and more people vote, we get a better representation of who we actually are. Let's open up those borders, right? That's what people are going to say. Oh, this is all the illegals voting. No, it's not. And you know what? Let's think about the generations of children that were children of immigrants who are now beautiful, contributing citizens of this country. And let's not dishonor their hearts for wanting to have a better life. Okay? Let's envision the vision of beautiful people. And how many people are so worried about a few thousand people, right? Or it could be more than that, depending on your state. But for some states, it's like 1,000 people, maybe, you know. Um, and we can honor those visions of dissatisfaction, and those issues do come into play, in certain ways. But the majority of the systems of checks and balances in this country for voting and whatnot were very much honored. The majority of the people know that in their hearts. I cannot blame the immigrants of, Mexico for the troubles of this country. Okay. That's where a lot of people want to go, and that's way beyond most people's idea about where we're going to go. I'll give you the future of that vision at some point. So anyways, I just want to say thank you again. Honor your hearts. Your souls are watching and they're saying this is going to be a good time. 2022 is going to be it's like the trials and tribulations for a lot of people. I'm not diminishing your mindsets, people. I know that this is serious stuff for some people. But in essence, there's hope. We've got a lot going on, but there's a lot of people who are struggle, and I'm not going to dishonor their hearts or their minds, right? I cannot guarantee I'm not going to trigger somebody. Um, and that's the view of it. If people don't like that I can bring through a party member from either side of the aisle, they need to maybe kind of sit back and think about why that might be. Okay. Now, honor your hearts is what I do. And my heart says it's time to go. I could sit here for a while and talk political ideologies. But in essence, it's not about that. It's just about a reassurance that the vision of the will of the people is being heard stronger now than it has in a long, long time. Whether you agree with the will of the people as a whole is a different kind of reality. Okay. And some people are making those choices to get themselves in areas that feel better for them. I don't vibrate in the state of California, or I don't vibrate in the state of Texas, or I don't vibrate in the state of Arizona, or whatever it is, right? People are shifting their views of what a beautiful country. Some will actually leave the country because they're so fed up with the political ideologies, right? Most people will honor the vision of it's a beautiful country. We've got some shit to take care of here, obviously. And that's where I come in, right? Excuse the language. But in essence, no, it's literally, we all have issues. So the political ideologies often give way to the spiritual enlightenment videos, which are of a more loving, caring, charismatic soul, right? So the will of the people of Jefferson would be very strong in the idea of love for our country. Others are going to disagree with that. We have many people who do not like the foundations of our country. And in his defense, he would say, I was a slave owner as a God, and I did my best, but I was wrong, right? That soul has moved on past the vision of political correctness. Okay. I struggled in my mindset, and I have to honor the views of those who are forward thinking souls and who would say, honor the vision of love first and foremost. So if it feels good in your heart, that's when you know you're in the right area of love. Okay. So, yes, we will be talking about the nature of our hearts from those who were part of those documents, potentially. They don't want to see the vision of the United States diminished, but they would honor the vision that a lot of our citizens are not part of the process in essence. They are discarded in essence in the minds of many who don't feel that they are of equality, okay, in various ways. Now, take a load off, right? You want to sit back and watch the magic? um, his vision was of studiousness, right? He was like, you need to study the Constitution, people, right? He says, those that do are to be held in the highest of esteem. Not all of us are afforded the luxury to be able to do that work. However, a basic understanding of all 10, right? He was of God as well. In his mind, he said, I lived my life by both. And anyone that can honor the vision of my country, as a beautiful expression, he would say, there are so many people who are not walking in those footsteps of their soul, but they do indeed have what? Big Brother watching them, right? We're going to talk about a lot of issues. But in essence, it's the love of God that many people hold high, or of source, or of higher being, or whatnot. Okay. And he would say, stay strong in that vision, because once people start to unwind the visions of, I can't be held accountable for his vision, right? That's me. I can't be held accountable for the vision of what Jefferson said or didn't say while he was on session, right? It's his soul, the soul of the soul. That's two different levels of understanding. So now I want to honor your vision. Oh my gosh, it's strong. So there's a Barbara Bush energy that would say, let's stick with the last 20 years. We've got enough to work with within our hearts. She's of present mindedness. She would say, We tend to focus so much on what these men did or didn't say in these documents that we forget that many people's lives weren't even taken into account when those documents were created. They knew, in fact, that it was going to be an expansion of awareness in those words, and yet some hold to them so tightly it doesn't allow for many to even be counted as equal or as valid, right? So let's take a break from this session. Let's open up the discussion to Channel 6. Channel 6. It's a public broadcasting system that many will say is biased in its apparent views. Do we look to anybody else beyond the 6? It's like, that's another vision. It's not Channel 6 for everybody. That's where I'm supposed to be heading in my news sources. See, I get the guidance from them too, in essence. They're honoring of that station. They say, it's too bad that people can't be open to an honest discussion of the issues without so much of the analysis going on, which is basically editorial opinions and papers, right? We don't have any qualifications for those souls, do we? How many people say, I'm just a person in the biz? I'm a person in the biz. I've got an opinion too, right? Marching orders are to dream a little dream. Most of us will indeed dream to be done with so much of the political ideology spin. Others will say it's spin, okay? But this is the nighttime energy. So I want to say again, thank you for your love. Thank you for your adoration. Thank you for your soul. Those are to those souls who I always honor with my love for having the decency to come through, spread the beauty of who they indeed are as soul. And I would honor your souls in the same breath. Thank you again for honoring me with your love and attention and your visions for who we are, because we're all creating this vision together, believe it or not. So love yourselves fiercely. Open your hearts to those who don't. Vibrate in the beauty of who you are, right? And honor your own hearts just as much as you would anybody else's. That's what starts to get your attention. If you're opening your heart to someone else, it opens up the awareness to realms undiscovered. Let's put it that way. Okay. So take care and have a great day.